Hello, this is Tom with the Tractor Rescue Ranch. I am here at Scott's house. We're going to get started on this 8N that we rescued, and hopefully at least get it to the point today that we know what we need to buy and to go forward here. Just thought I'd explain a little bit about my thought process here. This is not a how to do it deal, it's just what's going through my mind. So there's a sequence that I like to do things here. I don't want to, if I end up having to pull that motor apart, there's no sense in changing the oil now and then pull that motor apart and have to do it again. So there's a sequence of what I want to do here. I've pulled the dipstick out and the oil actually looks kind of clean. So we've got plenty of good oil in it. A good thing to do is to crack the drain plug and make sure you don't have water, because the way it's been sitting, if there was water in the crank or the transmission, it would be sitting on the bottom because it hasn't been running. If it had been running and there was water in it, the oil would look all frothy. So anyway, we'll just loosen that drain plug and make sure that there's no water that's going to come out of the bottom of that. And then what we'll do is we'll pull the plugs out, put some lube down the holes, and see if we can get it to cranking over. And if we can get it cranking, we'll check the compression on it. If it's got good compression, we'll know that we can go ahead and service it, change the oil and stuff, because we won't be pulling the motor apart. But if we don't have good compression or something in one of the cylinders or all of them, we'll just have to go from there and pull things further apart. So that's kind of my thought process at this point. Okay, I checked the drain plug on the motor and it just had good straight oil coming out of it, but you can see on this transmission I've got water dripping out of it. I just cracked that open enough to get it coming. So I got water in the transmission oil. We'll just let it drain here a little bit and see if that water will drain off the bottom, but for sure it'll need to be serviced. A lot of times up on these transmissions, that water will get down into there and it gets into the transmission from up here. It's really coming there. Okay, you can see the water's done draining and it's just coming with oil now, so I'm gonna put that back on. And then after we get things running, we'll go ahead and do a service on it. But that was quite a bit of oil in that, or water in that oil. Glad to have gotten that out. So I've got the plugs all out, and I'm sure that I'm not going to be able to shine the light and the camera down in there. Well, there you go. Everything looks real nice and clean down in there. I'm kind of excited how things are turning out here. Somebody else has done some work. You can see they put one piece of tape on number 1 and 2 on number 2 and 3 on number 3 to keep those spark plug wires lined up. So we're going to just put a touch of oil down there to lube things up really good, and then we'll see if we can get it to crank over. Yeah.
Just barely you say when, I guess. That.
Yeah, that's just enough to cover the top of that piston, and then it'll go down on the rings as it works. Okay, I guess the next thing here is to replace that old battery, huh? I wanted to show you in this gas tank. That gas tank is pristine in there. Looks really nice and clean. There's the starter button right there on top of the transmission, but it's rolling over. That's a heck of a good sign. Okay, got the compression tester hooked up to cylinder number 4. We'll see what we got here. Okay. Okay, looks like about 90. I think that's really good considering it's not lubed up or anything very well. Okay. Okay, that didn't look too good. That was almost 50. It's not as good as that first one. Something's not right. So on our compression, we had 90 on that last one, 50, and then about 80, and the number 1 hull was 75. So we're definitely not where we want to be on that, but I'm not ready at this point to tear into that motor. I'm thinking that it's got enough there to make the thing run, and if we can get it running and get it lubed up real good, that compression might come up a lot better. I can't recall what these flatheads are rated at for compression. We'll have to look it up, but the range that we're getting between pistons isn't right. So I'm quite confident at this point we'll just go ahead and continue working and see if we can get it to fire up and run it around a little bit, and then we can test it again when we get the motor running and get the motor all lubed up really well. So we got no spark. We've got this little jumper in there so you can see the spark good, but we got no spark. But I've got juice going to the coil and coming out of the coil, and then it goes down onto the ignition. So we got a problem in the points in here, so we'll pull that cap off and see what we got. Just pouring some gas into that carburetor with that funnel going down, and those floats are evidently plugged up. The needle valve where those floats are is plugged up because there's no gas at all going into the carburetor. So we're going to have to end up taking that carburetor apart, which does not surprise me a bit. Got the carburetor off, so we're going to just pull it apart and see what things look like on the inside of it. Okay, got this carburetor apart and it is a real mess in there. You can see that's typical. Been some water in there and it's all rusty. But this is the reason right here we couldn't get gas in the bowl. You can see up there the float going up and down, but the needle is stuck up in that hole, so that's the reason gas wouldn't go down through it. So this carburetor is either going to take a complete rebuild or a replacement. If we can get it cleaned up enough, we can rebuild it. I got that needle out. I don't know if that will focus in on there. Look at all the dirt that's behind that needle. That's probably the reason this tractor, they quit using it. Okay, we filmed a bunch of stuff here on this electrical end of things and we lost that, didn't get it very good, so I'm just going to do a backup video here and kind of explain to you what we did. Anyway, we had this Harbor Freight, oh this isn't the one, we had a Harbor Freight tester that you hook onto the cable, spark plug cable, and it evidently didn't work. There it is, because we thought we didn't have any spark because that wasn't lighting up, so we were messing with it. But anyway, how this system works here, you've got power from your ignition switch coming in here to this side. The electricity runs through windings in that coil and comes out this other side and goes down in here inside the distributor. So it comes in right here and through here, and this distributor, the points there open and close it. So when it's closed, you've got electricity running through it, through that winding and all the way to ground. And then when those points open, it stops that electricity from going through. And when it stops the electricity from going through, the magnetic field that coil is generating collapses. And when it collapses, there's a secondary coil in there. When it collapses on that, it creates high voltage that comes out of the top of this coil and goes over here to the rotor and then goes through there, and then whichever cylinder is lined up, it goes to that particular spark plug. So we messed with it thinking that we didn't have spark because that tester wasn't lighting up, but it turns out we did have spark. I think it's kind of weak spark, but we do have spark here, so we are going to just do a complete tune-up kit anyway. New coil, new points and condenser, new spark plugs, spark plug wires. One of our spark plug wires, the end on it was coming off, so be a good thing to just replace them all, but we've got power coming and going through it, so I think with just a tune-up on the electrical side we'll be in real good shape there.